Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Invincible season 3, episode 6. Before I get fully into spoilers, I gotta say this one, as I talked about the last one, I was not very excited about it, but this one kind of brought us back into the fold, even though this one does not really touch on anything with the Vultramites as well. Like the story once again is kind of on freeze, and I feel like they're gonna save all the Vultramite stuff, maybe to really come to a fruition, like in the last episode, and really flesh it out in the last season. And I feel like they just want to give us a little bit more character arcs. Really interesting. We had POWERPLEX in this episode, so if you read the comics, you probably already know what the story is. Aaron Paul voice POWERPLEX, and it's like a very recognizable voice, so that's really interesting. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. I think I like the stories that we touched on, and I'll go over that in detail in a minute. Um, I I will always I'll continue to mention the animation just because sometimes it really stands out how many little tricks they do. Like when a character talks, sometimes you don't see their mouth, right? Like the mouth's covered, so like they don't have to animate that. So there's a lot of little shortcuts and things, but sometimes they're pretty noticeable. Either way, I'm enjoying the show. I think I will sacrifice a little bit of the animation quality, just because the story overall is very good. I think the voice acting is really cool. They have some great music. Like there's music in the show every once in a while, and it just like I feel like it's at great places. And yeah, I really like it. Also, if you don't follow Ryan Otley, who is the artist for most of Invincible. He was not the artist at first, but he jumped on like relatively early, and really drew pretty much like 90% of Invincible, probably more. If you don't follow him on social media, he usually posts panels from the comic that are related to the episode that's going on. He's listed as a creative consultant in the credits, so like that would make sense. So it's really cool to see his original art versus what the translation ends up being in the series. So, anyways, all right. So here we go. This episode really is about PowerPlex, and we start with a flashback to the fight in Chicago where Omni Man was kicking Mark's butt. He shoots him through a building. The building starts to fall. Mark catches the building, but people still fall out of the windows. That was probably one of the worst incidents that happened with Omni-Man, right? As far as like damage and deaths and population and all that stuff. So it's coming up in a year anniversary, but in the meanwhile, we follow this character who is, like I said, voiced by Aaron Paul. His name is Scott. His sister and his niece died in that incident in Chicago. Now he's looking for revenge. When we're introduced to him, we see that he's got electric powers that are activated by I guess collisions. So like whenever he gets hit, he generates a little bit of electricity. Nothing that would be too crazy. But that's planting the seeds there, right? We cut back to the present with Oliver training with the Mark against I think Elephant Man was the character, and it's really funny because they talk about like Mark would also train with this guy. Like as far as like he's a villain, but he's like a lower level villain. I think it's funny, maybe a play on kind of the Rhino character or something like that. Um, Interestingly enough, Powerplex, his wife looked like Jessica Jones, and for a minute I thought that they might have had Kristen Ritter voicing the character. I did not find that to be the case. I don't know what the character looks like in the comics, so I don't know if she's supposed to be look if she's meant to look like Jessica Jones, or she's just somebody with dark hair and a very white complexion that happened to end up looking like Jessica Jones when they put her in the show. We see a family dinner, including Paul and Eve. So it looks like the family is all together. They're preparing because the next day they have to go to Chicago for the memorial. Um, in the meanwhile, Scott Powerplex, he causes an incident because he wants Mark to come try to stop him. Right? He has these discs. He used to work for the government, so he found a way to enhance his powers to a level where he can actually take out Invincible, and that's really his whole story is about revenge, and not really healing from that, which is crazy because his wife supports him to the point to a really crazy point. That was very weird. But yeah, they do a really fun bit where PowerPlex keeps calling out Invincible, but every time instead of saying the name Invincible, like you see the card, the title card with the name, which I was like, it made me think like, do they not say the name Invincible? But they do. They say it later on in the show. But that was just a fun bit. Like they showed the title card like maybe 5 or 6 times. I thought that was really interesting. But Mark was bowling with his friend, so he was ignoring. He was taking the night off from being a superhero. Next day, we're at the memorial for the victims, and once again, Powerplex he calls out Invincible, but Eve takes care of the problem, and the Guardians then kind of wrap things up. But Powerplex still escapes. In the meanwhile, we get a little bit of a story of Monster Girl, who we see. Usually, when they do an intro, they give you like little pieces of story that are going to be relevant to the episode, and we see that one of those was Monster Girl. So Robot makes a belt to fix her issue of he discovers how the curse works. Every time that Monster Girl turns into the monster, when she turns back into human, she's a little bit younger, right? So obviously the more that she turns, the younger she's going to be, and that's kind of the curse that she's got placed upon her. But Robot figures out a way to, with this belt, to make sure that she doesn't age backwards. So that's just a little taste. We also have a story of Rex and Ray, shrinking Ray, who is quitting the team, and she asks Rex to come along after their dinner. There was a little bit of a romantic effort there, but Rex tells her that all he knows how to do and all he is Rex Explode. He doesn't really have anything else to go to, no family, no nothing, right? He was sold to the government. um, he's got a pretty messed up origin story, and I believe they're gonna do like a special one, like an episode, like they did for Adam Eve, about Rex Explode, and I think that'd be great. I love Jason Mantzoukas, so I'm glad that not only that he's getting work, but that he gets to do more and explore this character even more. So we finally get it. What we've been working towards the full episode: Powerplex versus Invincible. In a one last ditch effort, Powerplex pretends to kidnap his own wife and kid. He has a baby with his wife. Pretends to kidnap them and sends out a message to Invincible. Mark finally acquiesces and goes into the battle. This is it's a great battle, but it's pretty emotional because Powerplex, in his quest for revenge, which I knew this was where it was going on the whole time, in his quest for revenge, unleashes too much electric power and accidentally kills his daughter, his wife and kid, and they show everything. Like they're not holding back. This show, they don't hold back on any of that stuff. So finally, Invincible takes down Powerplex, and he's put in jail. But I feel like we're not done with the character, especially if you're gonna cast somebody like Aaron Paul to voice the character. I don't think he's just a one and done episode. I feel like a lot of these big villains and big bads that are coming, they may come back to maybe the one last big fight against the Voltrumites, where everybody's gonna have to pitch in, really good, bad, and indifferent. You're gonna have to pitch in to take out the Voltrumites. But we'll see how that goes later on in the show. The last thing, we do have an after credit scene where it is revealed that another camera is watching Mark, and it is revealed that it is another Armstrong, or a version of Armstrong. So he's not dead. He's back, and he brought a what I call a council of Marks. So we see Invincible and Marks from all over, like all kinds of different universes. Um, that's going to be interesting to explore. I feel like that's what maybe the finale. Like, how did he convince all these Invincibles or these Marks to come along, and like what is the end game there? So yeah, exciting episode of Invincible. Really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. I think the season's going fantastic so far. Like I said, I think to my liking, episode five's been the weakest, but they're all been pretty strong overall. So when it comes to story and everything, so exploring the characters, I really hope we get a little bit of Ultramite stuff in the next one. I feel like we're gonna get Voltramite stuff in episode 7 to kind of wrap that up for the season. Maybe leave that big cliffhanger at the end of the episode. And then episode 8, will wrap up this multiverse storyline with Armstrong and the other Invincibles slash Marks. We'll see though. I'm not the showrunner. I just That's just based on my years and years of watching TV and reading comics. That's how I would plan it out. So there you have it. Let me know. Are you watching the show? Are you enjoying it? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.